What's a white lie you tell people about yourself because it would be too complicated to explain the truth? That I don't like to shake hands. In reality, I'm totally fine with it. However, I have a condition known as hyperhidrosis, which means that my sweat glands are hyperactive. I sweat a lot and pretty much constantly. For me, I sweat the most from my hands and feet, but others also sweat heavily from their underarms. It's not something I can control or manage easily. People who have shaken hands with me are grossed out and actively try to avoid me touching them. So rather than tell people this and open myself up to "Ew, that's so gross," and stuff like that, I just say I don't like physical contact. Edit. This is a few days later, but I want to thank everyone for being so considerate and helpful. I have so many new things to try now. Sorry if I didn't get to your comment, there were just so many. I hope you all have a great day, 2 hearts, and thank you for the awards. It's hard. My brother has that and you can't get it dry enough to not feel clammy to others. I don't really care, I'll hold his hand, but I guess for strangers they wonder WTF is that liquid on your hand from. He tells folks he prefers waves because his hands sweat a lot. And he gets a lot of questions. I can understand not wanting all that follow-up. That there's just a massive schism in the family, father's side, over some huge argument, and I don't really understand why, and that's why I don't know a massive chunk of my paternal family. It's easier than explaining that my grandfather was convicted of raping his granddaughter and half the family supported him, including my parents. And half didn't. I often make it seem like I can only use a wheelchair to get around the place, rather than explain just how far I can walk before the pain gets too much. Which is a horribly short distance, by the way. I wish more people realized that a lot of wheelchair users can move their legs. I'm just constantly shocked by how almost everyone seems to think getting around in a wheelchair is easier and you're using it because you're lazy. Like, it's 1,000 times harder to use a wheelchair. Try it sometime. Hash of siblings. No one wants to hear about a long-dead sister. It just makes people uncomfortable, and there's no reason to do that. Not dead, but I have a half-brother, 15 years my senior, with literally nothing in common. We only see each other when our mom gets us both together, and I can't remember the last time we spoke one-on-one. I don't hate him or anything, but my complete lack of a relationship is hard to explain. Plus I grew up like an only child, so it's just easier to say I am, unless it's someone I see myself actually being friends with. I had to leave the army because life threw me a curveball. What I really mean is I was honorably discharged because I couldn't provide a satisfactory family care plan on where my daughter would go if I had to go to the field for a few weeks of training or got another long deployment. I became a single parent suddenly when my wife was killed by a drunk driver after I returned from my second deployment to Iraq. This explanation usually leaves an awkward silence because no one knows what to say. I mean, I wouldn't call that a lie, more like the understatement of the century. Hope you and your daughter are doing better now. Hugs. That's always a good thing to say. When I was 16, one of my lab partners at school, a guy I didn't know very well, told me that I looked like I was Russian, and yes, I do look like it. I'm half Polish, but when I tried to correct him, he cut me mid-sentence and started asking me questions about Russia, which I could not answer because the teacher came and told us to shut up. Later that week, many people asked me about it. I went to a school where there was basically no one with Slavic heritage, and soon the entire school was convinced I was from Russia. I couldn't be bothered correcting everybody, so I just went along with it. Don't know if it qualifies as a white lie, but here it is. My brother married my baby's mama, effectively giving my son a stepdad uncle. If it comes up, I just tell people that he's, my brother, just some guy that I get along well with. I used to always get a mix of coffee and cappuccino at the campus convenience store. That machine cappuccino straight is just too sweet and the coffee wasn't good enough, but combined they were fine. They always ask you coffee or cappuccino as it's about 50 cents difference and it's basically the honor system. I didn't want to lie, but I also didn't want to explain that it's half and half and force them to try to find some way to ring it up. So I just alternate which one I told them. Technically always a lie, but also the most honest result, and easiest way to reach it, for all parties involved. It's my favorite honest lie. Ironically, for today's date, I tell them my mother is dead. Not a paranoid schizophrenic who kidnapped me at 8 am and left me in a drawer of a dresser in the closet of a hotel room alone for days. Who anytime was in my state after that required me to have a police escort and spend lunch and recess in the principal office. It used to suck trying to lie about why I was in detention or why the police came to school for me. The last time me and my mom spoke was years ago. She offered to take me to dinner. Drove me to the gas station dinner 3 blocks from my house, said she wasn't hungry and had to leave soon, then made me walk home before we could even order food. I hadn't seen her in 8 years. We spent less than 30 minutes together. I was 17. When I got home there was a message on the answering machine of her telling me what a loser I was. So she's dead if anyone asks. Yeah, that seems fair. Yup. I also have decided in the future to say my mom is dead. After I told a coworker that I didn't speak to my mother because she tried to murder me many times, abused me my whole life, and stole money from someone and pinned it on me, actually throwing me out of the house at 14 for stealing the money with a wild made-up story that my friends and I drove to the bank and took it out of her account, she responded that she felt bad for my mother having to be alone like that, and she hopes I'll forgive her. Never again. I tell them I left one of my jobs because they didn't accommodate my school's schedule. In actuality, I quit because I got demoted when I reported my coworker of $40,000 worth of credit card fraud from our customers. The company was Samsung, American division. They made my life a living hell because my manager was upset that I didn't tell him about the fraud. I told the security team anonymously, and obviously they didn't keep it anonymous. My manager would have gotten a bonus if I had told him about the fraud, so he took it as disloyalty and demoted me, and told everyone I was a snitch. I quit because I put so much into that job, but it got too stressful. I was unemployed for a year after that. And then COVID hit. I've been pretty unlucky these past few years. Pretty sure that's illegal. You might want to talk to a lawyer, I'm not one. I can't afford a lawyer and I have zero proof. We weren't allowed phones, paper, or access of other websites, like email, at work, so I have zero proof of any of this, unfortunately. My phone also factory reset last Christmas, so I don't even have text complaining to friends about the situation. That I live in _city. I really live in a suburb right outside of it, but nobody ever knows where it is because there aren't many houses. Haha, Chicago folk will hate you if you do that here. When I was in the army, a higher-up asked me where I lived and I told him what suburb I'm from, and he was like, "Where is that?" and I said 30 minutes away from Chicago. Then he gave me a ton of crap for not just saying Chicago. Next time a different sergeant asked, I said Chicago, and he was like, "Oh yeah? What block?" The first sergeant set it up with the second sergeant. They work together to F with you. It never occurred to me, but I actually think you're right. My nephew is my brother. My oldest brother, who is 13 years older than me, had him young, and my parents raised him. He always knew they were his grandparents. So he's more like my brother than my nephew. Oh, no thank you, I don't drink. No, I just never got into it. Start the sweating and awkward smiles. My brother is visiting me in truth. Actually, one of my closest friends from college is a guy and I'm a woman. He's very close with my family and comes up to stay with me every couple months for a weekend. It's awesome. However, I really don't love my one nosy coworker asking me if I'm dating said friend every time we all discuss our weekends at lunch. It makes it a throwaway small talk line to say, "Oh, my brother is visiting." Edit. I hate that I need to clarify this, but men and women can be friends because they are all people. I have plenty of friends who happen to be men and ones who happen to be women. Plenty of people can also make great friends that for many reasons wouldn't be even okay romantic partners. Literally, you all proved my point and why I tell a very basic white lie at work. He is your brother by choice. You adopted him, heart. That I drive my older car because it's paid off and I don't want a car note. In all honesty, it's because I can't afford a new car and my credit is totally effed. I work for myself, dropped out and got my GED, have no college under my belt and on paper resume don't qualify for a decent paying job. I've got a repo on my record from when I was knee-deep in my addiction and drinking, recently hit my 6-month sobriety marker. Trying to better myself, but it's a baby step game, trying not to get discouraged, but my credit is a dark cloud over my head at times. Restricts me from getting a better place to live, or a better car situation. I am a below-knee amputee on the right and I wear an articulated orthotic on my left. My lower leg issues are due to me being a non-compliant diabetic for many years. I wear shorts year-round as long pants are uncomfortable with my mobility aids. People frequently ask me what happened, and while I have come to terms with and capitulated to the fact that everything was my own fault, I prefer not to fall on my own sword over and over. I tell people I zigged when I should have zagged. Technically correct, from a metaphorical point of view. Oh, I just took some time off school, was actually in psychiatric hospital for 3 months. I'm just tired. All the time. Bruh, same. And then they say, why don't you take a nap? I'm not that kind of tired. Boring, but I work for a third-party broker representing a national client, M&M's Candy, in retail stores. Some people have no idea what that means, so I just tell them I work for M&M's. And I still hear, so you just hand out candy? It must be tough working with kids. How do you stay slim when you eat candy all day? How's does working for M&M's automatically mean you eat M&M's all the time? People sure make weird leaps in logic. Just not having luck with the jobs right now. Actually, I have a neurological disability. That I'm married. My wife and I are separated but get on well enough to raise our daughter but not be together emotionally or sexually. I still live in the house and we pool our money to give our daughter the best environment we can. Oddly, we fight way less than we did before, so the environment has improved massively. We both just have FWB or F buddies that we see when time permits, although we have an explicit rule about introducing people to our daughter and no banging at home if there's a chance the other/our daughter may come back home. Edit. Spelling. I have a boyfriend instead of we just started talking in a game and you're asking me out. I don't know you and now I'm creeped out. I don't have a mic. Usually if I end up talking on video games and they realize I'm a girl, their conversation becomes uncomfortable or just annoying. I don't have a sense of smell. It's easier to say that than explain what smells I can actually smell, or the fact that I can't identify smells correctly. Example. My parents and I were looking for a new house. We walked in and I was pleasantly greeted with the strong smell of lemon pledge. My parents and boyfriend were complaining of headaches, dizziness and nausea. I just thought it was too strong for them to handle. My mom then informed me that what I was actually smelling was cat pee. Other examples would be things like, stir-fry smells like spaghetti, cinnamon smells like that generic flowery smell in women's products, meatloaf smells like cookies, which is extra disappointing because I'm vegetarian. That I have 5 kids. I will never refer to my steps as steps. I was raised by a stepdad and was always treated as someone else's kid, and I will never let my extra kids feel that. My wife had a 4-year-old daughter when I met her. But she had almost nothing to do with her biological father, and by 6 was referring to me as dad and him by his given name. Fast forward to when she was about 15 and she decided to join me for the weekly shopping. We walked into one small shop where I was a regular and I told the owner, "Oh, and this is my daughter." She looked at her and said, "I can really see the family resemblance." My daughter and I looked at each other across the room and had an unspoken agreement that we wouldn't correct her, and were both really pleased. I'm sure the shopkeeper was a bit confused by the goofy smiles we were both wearing. That's I'm allergic to shrimp. Nothing else seafood related, just shrimp. I have an irrational fear of them, which people always question me about. It's just the way they curl. I'm too selfish to have kids. Damn easier than I had 5 miscarriages, one I nearly bled out during. I had to stop trying as it wrecked my mental health. I can't be mum. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.